In the eyes or ears of many, the Sega Genesis isn't known for having stellar sound. While I will be quick to defend that the good old Mega Drive has some games with some absolutely killer soundtracks, when my favorite game system of all time has bad music, oh, it's bad. Seems like for every Streets of Rage 2, or Gauntlet 4? We get a Blaster Master 2? Or an EA Marble Madness? Ugh, I'm sorry. And it's such a shame because I feel the bad gets talked about way more than the good for Genesis Audio.
Well folks, today I'm going to set the record straight because I feel there are several games in the Sega Genesis library that have some outstanding soundtracks that really need to be heard, some of which you may not have ever played.
We know about the games like Streets of Rage, Sonic, or Shinobi for having great music, but what are some lesser known Genesis games that have an awesome soundtrack? And what's a specific track you should listen to? So yep, it's time for another Level 10, and today the stage belongs to 10 specific music tracks that I feel are some of the finest songs that the Sega Genesis has to offer. Now this list is going to be a little bit different, as the songs in the games that will be talked about today are in no particular order, as I didn't think it would be fair to rank them. There are way more that you should listen to than the 10 songs I'll be mentioning today, so if you all enjoy this showcase and it does well, I'll make more. And before we begin, I want to give a quick shout out to Dustin Adell and his channel Dustin Adell Official, which is devoted to full Sega soundtracks recorded straight from real Genesis hardware. He helped bring most of the songs for this video, so definitely check his channel out. Link is in the pinned comment.
So anyway, kick back and relax, because on today's Level 10, we're going to take a look at 10 obscure Sega Genesis tracks that absolutely slap. Is that how it goes? The song slaps? Is that how it's... Anyway, I'm G, and welcome to the next level.
Alright, question. What names come to mind when thinking of iconic video game music composers? Yuzo Koshiro, Nobuo Uematsu, Spencer Nielsen, or perhaps even the Fallon Brothers? Tim and Jeff Fallon may not be the biggest names in video game music composers, but if you've heard their work, especially in the days of the NES, you'll see why they are two of my favorites. Just look up Pictionary NES soundtrack on YouTube and you'll see what I mean. Tim Fallon's efforts on the Mega Drive are pretty outstanding too, and one game in particular I feel has some of his best work, a licensed game based off the 90s syndicated sci-fi TV show, Time Trax. Now the Mega Drive version of Time Trax was never released, only the Super Nintendo version was, although it came with a different and, in my opinion, much weaker soundtrack. It's a shame too, because the whole game's soundtrack is incredible. If the song playing behind me right now sounds familiar to you, it's because I've used it in my own videos before, and it's from Time Trax. But right from the game's first mission, you're hit with a killer rock track that I just had to kick this list off with that, believe me, is gonna rock your senses too when you hear it. The next performance is actually from a game that I mentioned in my last Level 10 video, Data East and Factor 5's excellent run-and-gun platformer, Mega Turrican. I can't talk enough about how fantastic the presentation is in this game, and probably most impressive of it all being the awesome soundtrack by Chris Hulsbeck. Nearly every track in this game is excellent, but it's the Stage 3 music that steals the show, and when you reach the junkyard and you beat a mini-boss, a different song plays. And Stage 3-3 is the jam here. Here's a little known fact about me. The very first game I ever rented after we got our Genesis in 1991 was Renovation and Telenet's Valis 3. I remember seeing it on the shelf and the box art drew me into it. Maybe I could say this was my first real exposure to anime-like art as a kid. It makes sense because not long after that I was exposed to TV shows like Ronin Warriors and Sailor Moon. Now real talk, the Valis games have not aged terribly well, but the soundtracks in them definitely have, especially the Stage 2 track of Valis 3, simply titled Mugenkai. It's a short but incredible track that is certainly one of my favorite songs ever from the Mega Drive. Yeah, you know I love retro shooters, especially ones with a unique theme such as Hot Beast Steel Empire. Or I guess it's the Steel Empire, my bad. Having a unique 1930s steampunk-esque look straight out of The Rocketeer, I immediately fell in love with Steel Empire's aesthetic. I mean, you get to fly around and shoot things down in a freaking Zeppelin. Do I need to say anything more? Actually, yeah I do, because the soundtrack is awesome. Filled with banging guitar riffs and bass lines, the music of Steel Empire has that adventurous vibe and sounds so sweet coming out of the Genesis. But things get intense during its huge warship boss battles, and the incredible boss battle theme fits it perfectly. Ah yes, Konami and the Ninja Turtles. What a killer combination. We all love them. Every game that Konami put out during the 8 and 16-bit generations for our favorite heroes in a half-shell was a stone-cold knockout. Well, except for one. The black sheep of Konami's TMNT efforts would be the Genesis version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters. I may get some heat for saying this, but sorry y'all, it's just bad. The game is wildly unbalanced, the graphics are mostly dull and uninteresting, the CPU is really cheap, and worst of all, the controls have a bad delay to them. Pulling off special movements just feels awkward. This is just one instance where the Super NES really showed up the Genesis, folks. Hell, even the NES Tournament Fighters game is more fun to me. But enough about that. The diamond in this rough game has to be its outstanding soundtrack. It's so good that it's almost worth playing just for the music alone. It was hard for me to pick just one song to feature here, but there's no way that Casey Jones' Ice Planet stage theme couldn't get the spotlight.
Round one, fight!
The 21st century's most dangerous cop. The 21st century's most ruthless criminal. The future isn't big enough for the both of them. Wow, what a tagline. What a movie. As cheesy as it is to look at now, Demolition Man is still a film that I like to go back to every now and then. Kinda like Die Hard, or Happy Gilmore. Okay, my eclectic taste in films aside, Demolition Man the game is shockingly good. Acclaim did a great job of keeping the game action-packed, having it be faithful to the film, and above all, just being fun to play. But we're here to talk about awesome game soundtracks, yes? Now yes, there is a Sega CD version with enhanced audio and those trademark Sega CD grainy cutscenes, but I actually prefer the way the music in the cartridge version sounds, particularly on the hyper-energetic rooftop stage.
Send the Maniac to catch one.
Vic Takai is such a unique company. It seems like they were unabashed about how wacky and insane their games got, and I love that about them. When my buddy Tyler and I talked about a few Vic Takai games back in the iRetroGamer days, we mentioned about how Decap Attack, another Vic Takai gem that I seem to have turned my opinion on as the years have passed, shared a stage clear theme with another Vic Takai game.
When you beat a level in Decap Attack, the same music that plays when you beat a stage in Troubleshooter plays when you beat a stage in Decap Attack.
Yep, the game we talked about there was Troubleshooter, a brilliant side-scrolling shoot-'em-up with two cute girls with guns for hire. Oh yeah, and jetpacks. And lightning missiles. And giant robots. Wow, this game has everything! Yep, including a bombastic soundtrack that sounds oh so Vic Takai. This is another game that I had a hard time choosing one song for this list, but you know what? Let's get ominous for this entry, as the Stage 3 Warship music and its incredible drum beats and killer bassline just sends chills down your spine. Alright, that's enough sinister music. Let's get happy again. Anyone for tennis? Now, if you can name any tennis game that has a memorable soundtrack, hit me up with them in the comments, because I had a hard time thinking of any aside from one that I remember vividly. Sega's ATP Tour Championship Tennis. Well, before Sega would bring us the outstanding Virtua Tennis series, a series that they desperately need to bring back by the way, they had their hands on a couple of solid tennis games, Wimbledon and ATP Tour Tennis. So yeah, it's a tennis game. You're probably thinking, what's the big deal? Well, of course, it's the hidden gem of a soundtrack that's composed by Hikoshi Hashimoto, the same composer of Cosmic Carnage on the 32X. That's the second time I've referenced Cosmic Carnage in a Level 10 video. While there is no in-match music, what plays during the music is pretty rad. Two songs in particular stuck out to me, so I'm gonna cheat a little bit for this entry and slide two songs in here because they're so short. Dig the badass drum solo in Sound Test number 5 though. Give it a listen. The mid-90s were slowly becoming a barren wasteland for games on the good old Genesis as Sega started shifting towards the 32-bit generation. But before then, they happened to silently drop a game that just so happens to take place in a wasteland: the Ooze. Possibly one of the quirkiest and strangest games to ever be released on the console with no fanfare behind it. Seriously, it's almost as if Sega Japan literally didn't want you to buy the game over there. But it turned out to be a fun and challenging game, if you give it a little patience. And it brought along a soundtrack composed by a Sega icon, Howard Drossen. You've probably heard some of his work in big-name Sega titles such as the fantastic soundtracks of Comic Zone, Die Hard Arcade, and yes, Sonic Spinball. Yes, I like the Sonic Spinball soundtrack, leave me alone. But the Ooze's soundtrack has that same 90s grunge rock sound that we loved about Comic Zone. You know, that feeling that you get when you hear a retro song that hits hard and you wish a BGM cover band would play? Well, that's how I feel about the Ooze's boss theme. There are just so many fantastic shooters on the Genesis with equally fantastic soundtracks, but Vapor Trail's soundtrack does things a little differently. Now, it's not a very long soundtrack with only a few songs, but the way it all sounds is just so impressive that they could pass off for real music. The entire soundtrack has an 80s Top Gun kind of vibe, so smooth yet so hype, with awesome guitar riffs and bass lines. But enough of me yapping about it, just listen for yourself. So yeah, those are just 10 obscure yet awesome Sega Genesis music tracks, and I had a blast making this video and I would love to do more of them, so if you enjoy it, speak up in the comments and let me know if there are some Genesis songs or soundtracks that you think should be covered. I'm dying to know. And once again, a huge thank you to Dustin Odell and all the Genesis music from this channel for helping make this video. Go check out his channel, give him a sub, and tell him G sent you. And as always peeps, thank you all for watching. keep on gaming, and keep being awesome. I'm G, stay safe out there, and I'll see you on the next level.